The question for this week, Corey, is something that I think is a bit near and dear to your heart, I feel like. It's this whole fact of coaches making obscene sums of money, not having a lot of, accountability for being able to leave whenever they want, and maybe hopes of a brighter future for the entire sport of college football. So we go to our guy, Noel Dynasty, who, by the way, says that he was listening to the show, as he always does, while being on a treadmill at the gym. And he said that actually somebody next to him was also listening to the show. So he's got a friend now. I should read it, actually. Quick note, I've listened to Wake Up during my morning workout. A few weeks back, I noticed another gym goer was also listening to Wake Up as I saw it on their phone. New gym buddy, thanks to you two fine gentlemen. Bringing people together.
That's what we do.
We're in the people helping business.
That's what we do, Aslan. We bring people together. Well, Florida State fans mainly, but we try to bring them together. We do the Lord's work.
Corey, do you want to push the button or crank the generator on for us? It's generating discussion. It's sparked by Cummins, and it's sparked by our guy, Noel_Dynasty. When first answering this question, tell me why it would work before why it would not. Why could a university simply not have a head coach position and then spend those funds on top-notch coordinators or NIL? How would this work, Corey? All right, so let's live in a world where you and Ira Schofel are my offensive. You're the offensive coordinator. Ira's my defensive coordinator. There is no head coach. You're coaching the offense, doing your thing. He's coaching the defense. How does this work on game day? Like what's the operation? Who decides when to? I mean, it's fourth down. We're on offense. You want to go for it. You don't have anybody to answer to, right? I mean, what does Ira really got to say to it?
Yeah, that's the rub here. To say why it would work is that, theoretically you have two sides of the ball. If you'd have just said that Jimbo Fisher was the head coach of the offense and Jeremy Pruitt was the head coach of the defense, it seems like 2013 would have worked okay. But obviously the rub here, the problem is who is in charge? Who does make these decisions? Who makes decisions on whether kids get kicked out of the program? Who makes decisions on who to recruit? The buck has to stop somewhere.
Is it the GM? In this world, do we create like a GM?
Okay. You could, but then it's like, okay, well then who makes those? Does the GM buzz in and say, hey, y'all need to kick the field goal here? Who decides those late game situations, when to call timeout, when to go for it on fourth down? All that stuff. You
discuss it before the season, Corey. Again, I'm going to try to see how this works. So before the season, you get the Florida and Clemson game, and then Ira gets game planning in terms of strategy, Miami and Alabama. And then the other 8 games will just randomly draw where when it comes to those late game decisions, you guys go back and forth on it. It's all right, Virginia game. And that whole week going into it, it was much like when Harbaugh was suspended, right? Harbaugh was suspended. Sharon Moore, you're the head coach for this game. Mike Hart, I think, was the head coach for one game. So you can be like, all right, this game is all you. And at least not all you, but when it comes down to, are we going for on fourth down? Are we challenging a play? Things like that,
Well, you could see it would be complicated and complex. We're not talking.
Really, though, is that really complex?
Yeah, I mean, you can't be like, okay, you get this game to call fourth down. What if you're horrible at those decisions, and then 2 games later it's your turn again? Nobody can say, well, no, we hated what you did. Who would even say it?
The ego's aside at that point. It's bared before all of us.
Yeah, but you might be like, well, they screwed it up. I'm not going to let Ira run the show just because the guys that I called a great play and they screwed it up. I'm still the best. I'm the guy that should be doing this. There would be you need some hierarchy. But what we're not talking about is the perceived positive of it is you're not paying your head coach $10 million, so you're paying for better players. You're spending that money on something tangible. Maybe, that could help. I feel like there's a reason all companies have CEOs. All sporting teams have a head coach because it would probably devolve into chaos if it didn't after a couple of weeks, I would think. But you might have a collection of guys that just do it. It's like a rock band, man. You got to have a leader, Aslan. When you don't have a leader, you break up after 5 years.
I'm trying to think of what GM is the face of their NFL team.
Nobody.
I can't think of one, but coaches have to answer to GMs. I mean, only guys like Andy Reid and Bill Belichick and maybe like Mike Tomlin are able to really have full sort of latitude. So I just wonder if you have like that Andrew Luck at Stanford, he's like, listen, like this is what I want to do. I want to live in Palo Alto. I want to be around football. I think I've got a good eye for evaluating players. I want to be the one that's responsible for us allocating our money to guys in the portal. I'll hire an offensive coordinator and a defensive coordinator, and I'll designate titles to them in terms of game management on particular games, but we're not paying anybody here at Stanford University. We're not paying any coach more than $2 million a year. We're going to put all that money into getting the best players. I'm going to pick the players. You guys are going to drop the plays. You're going to call the plays. And then we're going to create a system here where we can manage the in-between.
I mean, somebody could try it. Nobody has. Nobody's had the balls. Nobody's had the gumption to try it yet. Maybe somebody will. And you could have at least co-head coaches. You could give that a go. I just think it would eventually nobody's ever happy being half a head coach. There always ends up being a wrestle for control, a wrestle for power. In the history of humanity, there's always somebody wanting to ascend to the throne and be the most powerful.
When you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die.
And that would happen on a college football team too. So I just don't think it would be it would get acrimonious quickly, I think. I don't think it would be lollipops and rainbows. Even if you're winning games, somebody's going to feel like they're the bigger reason you're winning games.
Exactly,
so they should get more control and they should be paid more.
But I'd say the 2013 team is almost like the best example because both sides of the football were equally responsible for the greatness of that. So like Jeremy Pruitt really couldn't have been like, this is all me. Like I should be making more money than Jimbo. And Jimbo couldn't have been, listen, if at that point Bobby Bowden was the GM and was the guy like, listen, I picked you two guys to run each side of the football, but I'm going to pick out our rosters. That team was well balanced. But yeah, what happens when you are 63rd in total defense, but you're top 5 in offense? And at the end of that season, your defensive coordinator or your offensive coordinator is looking and how are we both making the same amount of money?
Right.
I don't think anybody's altruistic enough to be like, well, hey, that's just the way it worked this year. Next year might be a whole completely different ball game. I'll be humble enough to realize that maybe I'll be on the way down, so I'll be fine with it.
It would have been cool in the 90s if Florida State had done that with Mickey. Just made him the defensive head coach and Bobby Bowden the offensive head coach. I do think that could have worked. Neither one of them were making a ton of money back then by, normal standards. They were very, very well compensated. But I think most guys that were recruited by Florida State to play on defense, while it was cool to say they played for Bobby Bowden, I'm sure he was a hit in the home. They went and played for Mickey Andrews. They swear by Mickey Andrews. Just like the offensive guys love playing for Bowden because of the high-flying offense he had. So maybe that could have worked. Otherwise, it just seems like it's destined for a lot of agony. But you might win games in the process, and you might have an awesome quarterback. Make him the head coach.
Last part, is the hardest thing going to be the in-between, the offseason, figuring out the team, or the actual in-game every Saturday? That's where this would be the biggest blight. Like, what are we thinking?
It's the way you run your program. Like, going back to Norvell real quick, like, he does have a way he wants to run his program and the caliber of kid he wants to bring in the program. Obviously, he needs better players, but he's looking for a certain type of kid. Well, so he doesn't want, malcontents. He doesn't want guys that are lazy. But what if there's nobody that can, from the top down, have that sort of edict of this is what I'm looking for? Then I feel like the defensive guy might have a philosophy of, I just want the best players. I don't care if their high school coach liked them. I don't care if he went to 5 high schools or got kicked off one of them. This guy runs a 4.42. He's an outside linebacker, and he's a freak. He might end up being good. And the other, there's no guardrails. In the offensive coach, it's like, nope, I want straight-laced. I want Rick Trickett types. That's who I'm looking for. Well, I don't think that can win either. I think you need there's a lot of problems with it. But again, the biggest bonus is you're saving yourself a lot of money. And I know Mike Norvell sort of gave up some money from last year when he $4.5 million that he donated back, kind of. But he got paid way too much money to be horrible. They could have gone 2-10 with me at head coach, and I would have done it for $200,000.
The glare on this thing is terrible. I should have changed it. But shout out to our guy, by the way, before we leave, Gator Kirk, who emailed me and said that he had a expired tag and he was going to throw it out, and whether or not I wanted it. Crazy thing is, it's got a sticker on it. It says 25. So I feel like I guess it expired in April. So like, what? You got to get a whole new license plate in the state of Virginia?
Maybe if it's like a one of those types of tags.
Man, that glare is really something, huh?
But you can see it. It's Warchant. It's WRCH &T.
Yeah.
Warchant.
Shout out to our guy Gator Kirk. Shout out to our great friends over at Cummins, by the way, as well.